Today, the beautiful Deanna Troi walks into 10 Forward and you just realized, hey, I didn't know 10 Forward had 2 doors. This is the Star Trek Critic and this episode is Hollow Pursuit. As usual, points are taken away for each error, and the first point taken away this time is because 300 years in the future, it will be illegal to copy someone like this in the holodeck. Wherever Barclay goes, trouble follows. Does that make him an angel? Probably not. And shout out to Barclay calling Riker nothing but a pretty mannequin in a fancy uniform. That's funny. Deanna looks stunning in this dress. Barclay beats up Riker, then does Picard maneuver number 1. Riker says, broccoli number 1. He calls him that because he just got beat up on the holodeck. One thing you don't know is how long has he been in Starfleet and on the Enterprise? The next point is lost for picking up a leaking container with your bare hands. You should know better. So this is all Duffy's fault, but Barclay keeps getting into trouble. No wonder he doesn't like being on the Enterprise. The anti-grav unit is broken. This is the biggest waste of technology. Why don't they just put wheels on it and not have all these problems? Now he needs 5 people instead of 1 with a dolly because this technology doesn't work at all. Geordi and Riker both have been in Starfleet long enough to know you don't just transfer a problem child, so -1 point. 1 point lost for not going to Counselor Troi and saying, hey, this guy's acting a little strange, because it's his job to tell her something is up. And it's her job to find out. 1 point lost for the first officer of the Federation flagship to not stop the broccoli comments. That's why he makes everybody nervous, and Riker should know that because it's his job. No wonder Picard is pissed. He shouldn't have to tell them that. So Barclay is a bit of a hermit. That's not a bad thing at all. Again, Star Trek does not follow the teachings of Yoda. This is Picard maneuver number 2. Picard says, grow some balls and talk to the guy. Get his act together. Geordi's like, no! Picard's like, hell yes, get out. Look close, there is nothing on that monitor, but Picard still looks at it, so -1 point. Geordi does the walk of shame since he's got to talk to the weirdo. Barclay does Picard maneuver number 3. This invite may or may not have been a mistake, but it's a great gesture on Geordi's part. You know, this extra is all excited because he got to ride the Star Trek elevator. -1 point since none of them are senior officers except for Geordi. As usual, Hollywood has no idea what senior officers are. This is Duffy, named after a stuffed bear. This is supposed to be a joke, but remember, engineers have a terrible sense of humor. That's why nobody watching got it. Poor Barclay. His first meeting and he gets mansplained to by the bratty know-it-all. No wonder everyone hates Wesley. Barclay thinks of all the things he should have said. This is a flux capacitor, but since Barclay is pissed, I'll give him a pass. That's what she said. That's what she said again. Really, it's Barclay saying all this. Barclay gets the holographic girl. The real girl is going to be really pissed in a minute. Wesley got in trouble for stealing Barclay's thunder. This is broccoli number 4 and broccoli number 5. Geordi says, stop talking about vegetables. It's time for a drink. Then Geordi says captain's orders because he doesn't have the backbone to give his own orders. That's bad leadership. 1 point lost here. If that substance on his fingers it will destroy that glass, it would destroy his fingers too. -1 point for touching that with your bare hands. They should know better. And it's data. Now Geordi touches it. However, the scanner is not picking up anything on there. Geordi sees this as an opportunity to give his problem child a job to keep him out of his hair. Geordi calls Barclay the left fielder.
The left fielder's name. Why? I just thought I'd ask you.
1 point lost for all of them going up to the bridge to tell Riker about the issue because they could have told him over the intercom. Barclay calls Data the second baseman. Picard comes over to help boost Barclay's spirits and then says broccoli number 6. 1 point lost for a single set of doors on the fake turbolift. Data tries to mansplain metathesis to the captain of the Federation flagship. And that didn't go over so well either. Geordi calls Barclay the third baseman. Geordi says, I love you. Guinan says, I know. Again, Guinan gives advice because everybody goes to Guinan for advice instead of Deanna Troi, even though that's her job. 1 point lost for Geordi invading Barclay's private life. Barclay should have locked the door. In reality, Master Barclay wants to spank Beverly. Beverly has less than 5 lines, so -1 point. Wesley is wearing the costume from the famous painting Blue Boy. Geordi says, who is that? because it's a stunt double, so -1 point. This is an excellent sword fight, so be sure to watch it on TV and tell CBS that I sent you so I don't get any more copyright claims. Geordi and Barkley have a male bonding moment. Aww. Geordi says, yeah, I'm guilty of some stuff in there too. Geordi says it's unusual to recreate people you know. Look what he did with somebody he didn't know. Barkley says, it was you.
Which is you?
Which is you is not a sentence.
I disagree with.
Geordi calls Barkley the third baseman. One day I'm going to have an entire Who's on First sequence in Star Trek. Don't fret, Barkley. I don't enjoy parties either. They are loud, and there's always those people who go there just so they can act drunk and stupid, and they are already acting stupid before they even have a drink. Dirty Duffy strikes again. Maybe he should wash his hands. According to the stardate, about 8 hours have passed even though it's really been a day, so -1 point. -1 point for the engineer's log talking down to the audience like we all forgot everything during the commercials. This time they blame the third base men for the problem. O'Brien says I number 1. Geordi follows Riker the same way Riker follows Picard. Barkley is in the torture chamber. Deanna says most people find a counselor intimidating at first. How does she notice? Now she says it's okay if you feel. Yes! Barkley calls Deanna the left fielder, when in reality, he's the one out in left field. Now she says, let it out through your mouth just as slowly. That comment was so scary he ran out. Barkley is definitely wrong this time. He should have gone to the holodeck after his meeting with Riker and all of this embarrassment would have never happened. But then the show would have been a lot shorter too. 1 point lost here. Geordi should have explained what was going on in the turbo lift. He had plenty of time. One of them says, I hope she was worth the effort. They missed out on a really good conversation. Did you notice they're standing so they all look about the same height? Riker is correct. You would think that after 300 years, there would be laws against AI using our images and voices. This is one of the few times where Star Trek did not predict the future. Riker wants to stop the program, but Deanna decides to mansplain to her ex-boyfriend why she's always right. I love the way Geordi says this.
Now, do you expect to fight without your sword, sir?
This is a humorous exchange, but we gotta move on. Deanna says there's nothing wrong with a healthy fantasy life. She's gonna change her mind real quick. Just a second ago, Deanna was saying this has an element of humor, while now Geordi and Riker are thinking this must be what it was like on the Enterprise during Kirk's time. Of course, it's Geordi who gets into trouble for being in the holodeck and not engineering. Looks like we're gonna miss out on a really good catfight. Aww. Geordi admits he's a little perv in the holodeck too. This is the future of video game addiction, and that's what people suffer today. And even before today, the movie Mazes and Monsters was about a young Tom Hanks who was caught up in an online board game similar to Dungeons & Dragons. Geordi says he knew when it was time to turn it off and say goodbye. He is so full of it. Guess what's going to happen next year? And now the ship is out of control. At this rate of speed, without filing a flight plan, they are more likely to shoot right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova than to actually fly apart. Geordi says I number 2. There is no way Duffy or anybody who touched that container got their fingers inside those connections, so -1 point. Geordi wants to know what's the connection. In reality, it's Duffy. He caused it all. Charlie Lang has a degree in psychology and 45 screen credits, including Fire in the Sky and Sliders. But because he almost destroyed the Enterprise, this is what happens to him next on Star Trek.
I want you to take him, I want you to toss him out the nearest airlock.
Separating at this speed will destroy them, so -1 point. Barkley says it was the third baseman. Barkley solves the problem, and they all blame Duffy for it because he touched everything. And then Duffy says, no, O'Brien was in the transporter too. The computer says there are 15,000 substances it does not scan for. That's a lot. It's always good to know the computer does not scan for poisonous material. Duffy says the first baseman has the answer. The ship is going to explode in 10 minutes. Instead of calling the cargo bay and having somebody there to scan for it, they walk down, so -1 point. In typical Star Trek fashion, they have less than a minute to go. Oh good, they're wearing gloves this time. Invidium has been detected and Barkley saves the ship. It's all Duffy and O'Brien's fault, but they never get in trouble for it. This is Duffy. This is Barkley. 1 point lost for visible equipment in the reflection. Barkley says goodbye to the crew. Of course, it's done this way, so you'll think he's actually leaving the ship. Geordi says, I love you. Reg says, I know. Barkley deletes all his programs except program 9. And now, thanks to the Blu-ray special edition with deleted scenes, we learned exactly what Program 9 was. Hollow Pursuits, where the introvert with the holodeck edition uses AI to copy other people, but still saves the ship, gets a score of 77. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, and that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.